It keeps more of the potassium inside the cell, and then there's a whole bunch of different processes that are involved. But this will increase the
insulin. I noticed there's more insulin.
Yeah, it'll increase the secretion of insulin. So there'll be more insulin getting out in the bloodstream. So what do you think, if you use glipizide, are there any sorts of side effects or risks that you could think of that come from it, looking at the model?
Well, I was looking at this graph. This is when we added the glipizide, made the insulin spike, but the glucose is really low.
Yeah, so what happens when, do you remember what it's called when the glucose is really low? Hypoglycemia. So what do you think we need to do to deal with or avoid hypoglycemia?
Eat some food. We'll add more glucose.
Yeah.
Should we make them eat?
Go for it.
Okay.
Right now, just keep in mind that the glipizide all worn out. So we put in glipizide. Glipizide is part of a class of drugs called sulfonylureas.
So you can see the glucose spiked up. And then right here where it spiked to, and then I gave it glipizide.
So yeah, it spiked up when you, what did you have in the meat? Was it pasta?
Yeah, pasta.
That's when they ate pasta, and then the insulin spikes up. And that's how much insulin's in the blood, so more of that's getting released. So you can see that glucose is starting to drop again. So that's one of the things that you have to keep on top of if there's a patient who's using glipizide for type 2 diabetes, is to make sure their glucose levels don't drop too much.
So now it's dropping again, so maybe have them drink some milk?
Sure. Yeah, and so remember you want to keep this within a healthy range of glucose. So even if you have type 2 diabetes, like people will be like pricking their fingers and doing a lot of glucose readings that way just to see. Well, what do you think would happen, and why don't we go ahead and try this, is let's stop the model and see, because this is a type 2 diabetes, so the difference here is type 2, their beta cells will still produce insulin, just not as much as healthy. Remember what happens with the type 1?
They don't produce any insulin.
Their beta, yeah. Like a lot of times you'd say their beta cells are destroyed. So let's see what happens. What do you think would happen if we use glipizide with type 1 diabetes?
If I understand correctly, glipizide makes it produce more insulin, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if we
more that will get secreted.
So maybe if we give them like a higher dose of glipizide, they could produce enough insulin.
Well, let's try it and see.
Do I need to restart it?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and
or just change it.
Let's start new. Click setup and go to type 1 diabetes. Okay, go. Okay, so you were thinking, let's give them glipizide?
Yeah, because there's no insulin at all right now.
Okay, so and what's the glipizide supposed to do when it comes into contact?
It's supposed to stop this potassium channel from being, it's supposed to close it.
Yeah.
So that the potassium stays inside the beta cell.
How many times did you click the glipizide?
I think I just clicked it once.
Okay, go ahead and do like the 5 milligrams. Okay, so there's one that's closed. Okay, so when it's closed, then more insulin will be secreted in type 2, but what's happening here?
You can look at the graph. There's still no insulin. There's no insulin.
Yeah, because, you know why?
Because there's none in the body in the first place.
Yeah, so in type 1, the beta cells can't produce insulin at all. So, like, you can't increase something. There's nothing.
But there's
yeah.
If we gave them insulin and glipizide, would that help them maintain their levels? Or do we not need glipizide for a type 1 patient?
Well, yeah, glipizide is not recommended for type 1 because their bodies aren't producing insulin.
So it's not.
And glipizide for type 2, it just increases the production and secretion because it's already a low level. And it does have that side effect we talked about before. All right, so there's one other thing we want to work with on the model so far. I mean, obviously there's a lot of diabetes things you could learn, but go ahead and stop the model, and we're on a beta cell. Let's switch back to the muscle cell. Click setup. Okay. Look familiar? The muscle cell from before. We have this set up. Okay, so this is a healthy. So go ahead and just run this. Let's talk through this one more time. Can you talk through how the whole insulin receptor and all the other stuff works in this?
So as soon as one of these keys, see it, it touched it, and then these loop 4 gates are going to open, and the glucose comes in and produces the energy.
Right, so this is different from the beta cells because now we're using the insulin that was produced elsewhere or brought in somewhere else to allow for energy to be used by the muscle cells. Okay, now change the patient health to type 2. You can just keep it running. So now let's watch and see what's going on here. Looks like one of those insulins is about to touch, is it?
So it looked like it touched, but it didn't open.
Yeah, and it wore out. Okay. So one of them's stuck there, but...
Okay, so that time 2 touched together at the same time, and then they opened the gate.
Yeah, so what happens here is that with type 2 diabetes, not only is somebody producing a little bit less insulin in their beta cells, but they also can have insulin resistance. So, like in the healthy patient, 1 insulin in this model was enough. Now it needed actually 2 insulin to touch it at the same time.
To make it open.
Yeah, because it was resistant to insulin.
So with a type 2 patient, would they need more insulin?
You can use that other insulin, so that's a good question. So, like, are you asking if you could use, like, that rapid-acting insulin?
So that go ahead and touch faster?
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that. So that's one way you can do it, is to increase that. So type 2, you could use this injected insulin, and you could also increase the amount of insulin your body is producing in the beta cells using glipizide. We've been working with this computer model. If you zoomed in and actually looked at your cells, this is not exactly how the cell would look. Are there any other things that you can think of about how this model and like the actual cells in your actual body, or in the body of some type 1 or type 2 diabetes, would seem different?
Does the cell only have 2 receptors?
I don't think it's exactly just 2. It depends on each cell. So this is, again, like an approximation. How about the insulin receptors? Do you think there's just one sweet spot for...
No, it's probably like more locations in the cell that have that.
Yeah, I think all the very technical, most accurate pictures I've seen, like the cell membrane's got a whole bunch of stuff.
And maybe like, this is a clear one, like the time, like someone can go into like hypoglycemia in like 300 seconds for us, but in real life it wouldn't happen that fast.
Probably not.
You would hope not.
That'll be like 5 minutes. So, yeah, I think in real life diabetes management, you want to be quick about it, but
it doesn't happen as quickly as the model.
We're doing sort of model time instead of like actual seconds. There's a reason why it's not even labeled seconds. It's just time.
We would be sitting here forever if it was real time.
And then also, like, this is just one muscle cell, but your body has way more.
So there's thousands of cells that are doing this process all at the same time.
Yeah, so this is just like a look at what one would do, and some might have even more receptors on the outside, and some might be more glucose demanding. but this just helps